everyone, and welcome to the second video on the channel regarding the Great Lakes Draft League. We are looking at all the different teams in my division, and basically analysing where most of their power will come from, where their threats are, and overall just putting the teams into a tier list, and of course probably making some recommendations for where they should put any future transactions. So there's 5 tiers in this: S, A, B, C, and D. The tier list is available for coaches in the Great Lakes Draft League in the Erie channel. I don't think it's pinned though, but I'll put the link definitely in the description. Um, so, without further ado, let's get into it. Looking at the very first team of the Baltimore Pangolins. All I know is evolving around a Pangoro. They've gone with a bit more of a sand-based team with Excadrill, Tyranitar, Entei, Milotic, Aromatisse, Jellicent, Flapple, Sigilyph, Togepi, Haunter, and Persian. I'm going to look at this team as it was drafted, which is what I'm going to do for every team. This team has made a transaction, which is Entei to Rotom Heat, but I want to really look at this team as it was drafted. Then I will look at the transaction and see where that ultimately puts the team as well. So you've got your pretty standard sand core with Excadrill and Tyranitar. Pretty solid. It was solid for the first like 5-6 series, or first 5 series definitely of VGC 2020 or Sword and Shield VGC. This core I think was going to put in a lot of work. But I think wasting a tier 1 slot on a Tyranitar is a bit of an unoptimal play, because I think there's definitely Gigalith, and I think Gigalith went undrafted. They could have grabbed Gigalith and actually had a really good Trick Room mode, and used that tier 1 slot on something like a Dusclops and have like Excadrill, Gigalith, just Dusclops. But once again, Tyranitar isn't the worst pick in the world, so you can't really fault them too much for that. I'm pretty sure. I think Gigalith didn't go drafted, but I think it didn't. So I'll just check from the tier list. I think Gigalith may still be on the table. Yeah, Gigalith net undrafted. So I think this team would benefit greatly from having a Gigalith, but once again, Tyranitar is a good mon. So like, I'm not gonna fault them for that. It's still a really solid Pokemon. With these loads, eventually it will get back to the team. There we go. It's now there. I hate the internet here in Australia. It's annoying. Entei, I think, just made a ground weakness even worse. So Entei is a good mon, understandably, but I don't think he kind of fitted this team correctly. That's why I like the trade they've done. Entei to Rotom Heat, because it's electric and fire type that isn't weak to ground, and you've got one of the best ground type mold breakers on your team already with Excadrill. Milotic, I love Milotic on this team composition. Milotic on Sand is super solid because it just deters Intimidate so hard against things like Excadrill and Tyranitar, because you can just lead Milotic and start sweeping with it. Aromatisse, a lot of people in the server are bullish on Aromatisse, and I kind of see why. Very slow, base 29, it's bulky, 101, 72, and 89. It gets a Romovair, which means it can't be taunted, so you don't need to run a Mental Herb on this. On it. Jellicent, I kind of don't get the Jellicent pick on this team. You've got a good water type in Milotic, you've got a good Trick Roomer in Aromatisse. Maybe it's a Water Absorb switch in for Entei and Tyranitar and Excadrill, which kind of makes sense, but I don't really think it fits. Getting a better Ghost type or something like that will probably be the play here. Flapple, I have used Flapple in the past in a smallish draft league. Flapple is insanely good and it's insanely powerful. Hustle plus a Grab Apple or Wax Overgrowth. Its Gmax effect lowers evasion, so it's really good partnering with Coil Hypnosis Milotic. Oh god, Coil Hypnosis Milotic, that's gonna be fun. But Flapple, It's a solid Pokemon. I like it a lot. Hustle is probably the ability you're going to run it the most. It does get Gluttony, but I don't think you'd really want to run it with Gluttony because it doesn't get Belly Drum, so I know that much. So you can't really run that. Sigilyph, very solid Pokemon. I like it. It's good value for tier 4. Gets your Trick Room, gets your Tailwind. Grabnosis can be a thing on this team. And Gravity plus Grab Apple, really good synergy. Sigilyph is a good Pokemon for this team. And there's 3 good abilities as well. Togepi, it's really there to just take 1 attack, really die, or take 2 if you want to sash. It's just there to buy a little bit of time, and I don't mind Togepi. I was going to draft Togepi before Togepi did get drafted before it got back to me. Haunter, very solid pick. It gets Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp, a few other support options as well. It's a super solid pick for this team. Um, it has 115 base special attack as well, so it's not exactly a terrible Pokemon to pick in tier 5 because it actually hits really hard as well. Haunter, good Pokemon. It's good. It gets Levitate, so it's basically Gengar if it got Levitate. Solid, and it's fast as well, base 95. I like Haunter a lot on this team composition. Like, I think Jellicent could really be traded out to something completely different, not a Ghost Type either, because you got a good Ghost Type in Haunter. Persian, Limber, Technician, Unnerve. 2 good abilities there. Technician boosted Fake Outs are not going to be fun to take because Technician technically boosts Fake Out because Fake Out has a base power lower than 60. Unnerve's also another good ability because a lot of Pokemon facing this team might rely on a Charty Berry or a Shuka Berry to take attacks, or a Babiri Berry, and leading Persian plus 1 of those Pokemon just cripples it entirely, takes the berry out of it. So I like the Persian pick on this team. We look at the type matchups, and they've got a bit of a weakness to electric, but it's not much of an issue considering you have an extra drill, which can deal with electric type Pokemon pretty handily, and I'm suggesting to trade out Jellicent, which will help that out massively. Ghost, that can be easily fixed with the Jellicent trade out as well, because I don't really see the point in Jellicent on this team. I think you can get away with trading it out to something much better and make this team truly unstoppable. And a little bit of weakness to rock type Pokemon, but Excadrill and Milotic can handle that very effectively. So overall, this team I feel is super solid. The Rotom Heat trade is good, and it's super good as a trade. Um, Definitely an upgrade from Entei, because it alleviates a ground weakness that this team will be facing from its top end. She got good answers in Milotic, Jellicent, and Flapple, but I think that if they're not in, they're not exactly going to do any pressure to ground types. But Excadrill, Tyranitar, and Entei go really hard and get, have a really hard matchup against ground types. Um, Jellicent to another fairy type could be good because I think fighting types are not exactly fun for this team to deal with either. So overall, we're going to put this team in the A tier. Um, it's got some things it needs to change still. The Jellicent, which can be which would probably make this team an S tier. But A tier, super solid. It's not a low to A tier either. It's about a mid to high A tier pick. So I really like this team, and I think they can do super well with it this season. With the next team, we've got the Boys State Ursa-Rings, and they've drafted Incineroar, Alola Ninetales, Regidrago, Arctozolt, Hawlucha, Pincurchin, Alolan Raichu, Grapploct, Alolan Sandslash, Wigglytuff, and Lunatone. Incineroar, good solid pick. It's been up there with every other series since it came out in Series 3. It's just been a staple on a lot of teams. It's just a glue that holds a lot of teams together in the VCG and VCG. So making it as a tier 1 is really good because you're getting Party Shot, you're getting Fake Out, you're getting a really bulky Pokemon. Overall, it can be run many different ways. You can even run it offensively if required. Alolan Towers I like they went for a good Hail mode, but I don't think you need both Arctozolt and Alolan Sandslash. like it gives you the versatility, but I kind of like dropping if you're gonna drop two hail sweepers. I think you want to have at least a hail sweeper that can hit Pokemon that it's weak to against, like Arctovish. I think is a better Pokemon on this team than Arctozolt, in my opinion. I get why they probably picked Arctozolt because the electric train combination with Pincurchin and Liliraichu, that will be insanely hard to deal with, but I think they probably could have gone away with running Arctovish instead, because they're also lacking water coverage as well. So I think Arctovish probably would actually be the better play for this team. And it's basically just Dracovish Light. It still gets Fishy Rend. Might not get Strong Jaw, but it's still Fishy Rend is still busted as all hell if the Pokemon goes first. Regidrago, I think they should trade Regidrago out because Regidrago, I feel, isn't reported very well on this team. If Holucha got Tailwind, it would be really good to pair with Regidrago. Regidrago really like that Tailwind. It also likes to have a Redirector, which it doesn't have on this team at all. But Regidrago with a Choice Scarf still hits very hard, and it's still a Pokemon you have to respect, so it's not entirely useless. But you got some really good Ice types to deal with Dragon types, but I fear how you're going to deal with still Fairy types, because some of them do get Mystical Fire, and if they do Mystical Fire, Max Flare, Sand Slash, and they're faster, you don't really have a Fairy type answer to deal damage against them. The Electric Terrain core with Holucha, Pincurchin, and Raichu is really solid. Holucha can also be ran with Ice Shard Weakness Policy proc, so really solid synergy with Holucha. I like the Holucha pick on this team. Pincurchin is good. I like Pincurchin on this type of team. Slow terrain, which guarantee your terrain up, but not a lot of teams in this division have based their teams around terrains, so they probably get the terrain up really easily. Coco is the better electric terrain Pokemon, but I can see why they went Pincurchin instead. Raichu is just Raichu, but it ate too many pancakes. But Surge Surfer, super good. But I do fear that if it does max, it's gonna have to hit something with a max Psychic, which means it's gonna lose its max electric boost, which is not exactly something it wants to deal with. Grapploct, I personally don't have much experience with Grapploct, but I know it's not the best of Pokemon. It's slow, it's not exactly bulky either. Yeah, it's a good Trick Room option, but I don't really see how they can really use this Grapploct super well. Wigglytuff, I love the Wigglytuff pick. Normal Fairy is such a good typing. It's competitive as well, so you can deter the Intimidates from a Hail mode. Because I'm pretty sure your Hail Sweepers are both physical. Yeah, Artisalt's physical. So I like it a lot. And then you've got a Trick Room mode in Lunatone, which gets things like Rock Tomb. So you could run Rock Tomb, Arctozolt, or Rock Tomb. I think it's Bulldoze as well. You could run Bulldoze Sand Slash. Overall, this team is super solid. I don't know if they've made a transaction, so we'll have a look at that. It's Indigo that made this team. I think they may have not. They confirmed they have not made a transaction for the time being, which is alright. So means they have 3 transactions to get this team straight. You look here, they got very bad weaknesses to Fairy, Ground, and Rock. They need to fix that up very quickly because a lot of teams have strong Fairy types. They have strong Ground types. They have strong Rock types. And then weaknesses to Water and Fighting aren't going to help the case either. So I think this team is good with transactions, but I think they're gonna really gonna need those transactions to make this team really thrive. We'll go to the power rankings now. I'm gonna rate this team as a B tier team. The team is not. I can't really see this team jumping in the A tier without some very big transactions. Like I think they just need to commit to probably one Hail Setter. I really like probably getting Arctovish because it gives you water coverage instead of Arctozolt. And it gives you free. That gives you free electric type Pokemon. I don't really think you want free electric type Pokemon on a team, and you've got a bad ground weakness. And Arc Division can at least alleviate that with some water and ice coverage. So I think their team is solid. I think they could do well with it. And I think all they just need to do is make a few transactions through the season and the team will be super solid. But overall, I like where they try to go with this team. It's just a few mons I don't really think fit the team composition or just make certain weaknesses a bit more difficult to deal with. So a solid B tier for this team. Which they don't have a logo at the moment, so I had to make the logo in Ursaring. But I'm really excited to see what their logo looks like. So that's a good little thing. Next up, we're going to go over to Born in Chaos. Now, this is a team I like a lot. You got Moltres Galarian, Indeedee Female, Raichu, Crocodile, Slowbro, Frostlass, Orbeetle, Sceptile, Skarmory, aka Poor Man's Corviknight, Turtonator, and Sock. This team is super solid. They originally made a trade of Indeedee to Clefairy, and everyone in the Erie chat was just like, don't do that. Indeedee works so well on this team. They have since been able to revoke that trade, so they're now stuck with Indeedee, and this team is super solid because of Indeedee. Psychic Surge is such a good ability to have on this thing. Indeedee plus Slowbro is going to probably annihilate teams with expanding force spam. Then they've got the Moltres plus Raichu mode as well, which is super solid. Very big in VCG as well. The Moltres Raichu mode, it has fallen off a bit. That mode. You've got Crocodile and Frostlass, Anger Point Crook, and it gives you Intimidate and Moxie. So you basically got to prepare for all abilities, and you could even bait the Anger Point stuff by leading it and then just go for Weakness Policy, Ice Shard proc instead. But you get to the lower tier Pokemon, and Orbeetle, I don't really see the Orbeetle pick team when you already have a strong Psychic Trick Room in the form of Slowbro. I don't really see what Orbeetle gives you that Slowbro doesn't give you. Yeah, it gives you bug coverage, but I don't really think you need the bug coverage. Like, Bug's not a good max move. Unless there's a Pokemon on this team that somehow gets Hypnosis, you could do some Grabnosis stuff with its G-Max effect. So, there's that. Sceptile, I like Sceptile. Sceptile's a good little grass type Pokemon with Burden. You can run it with Frostlass with Weakness Policy. Skarmory, I'm not a big fan of Skarmory. I just see it as poor man's Corviknight. And I think Corviknight's just better than Skarmory in every other way, but and it could be like a better tier 4 than Skarmory, but that 140 base defense stat is going to fire off some very high damaging body presses, which you have to respect, but I don't really like the Skarmory pick. I think they could trade Skarmory out to something else. Turtonator, I like Turtonator. It started picking up a bit of usage in VCG. Iron Defense Body Press set, Dry Dragon and Shell Armor. It's all good combinations. It can't be crit, so it's just needs a Shell Armor, so it's super solid as a setup mon with Iron Defenses. Sork is one of the best tier 5 Pokemon in the league. Sturdy, Inner Focus, and Mold Breaker, all three amazing abilities on this Pokemon. And it hits hard with 125 base attack. I like this team a lot, and I think they're probably going to go very far with this team. Now we're going to look at the weaknesses. But the one thing that holds this team back for me, in my opinion, is this type chart. There is a lot of red on this chart. You've got a -2 to rock, you've got a -1 to flying, a -1 to ice, a -2 to fire, a -2 to fairy, -1 to dark, a -1 to bug. The bug isn't exactly the big issue because bug isn't really used, but having weaknesses to dark, fairy, fire, flying, and rock, all common types, I think this team is gonna struggle when it fights those particular Pokemon. But they have the tools to beat those particular Pokemon. I just fear that if they go up against a Pokemon that has rock and fighting coverage, it's probably going to hit or rock flyer fairy coverage, it's not going to be fun for them to deal with. Um, but this team is super solid. I'm gonna rate it as an ATR team purely because of that type matchup chart. Um, if they make the type charts a little bit more green, I think this team can be pushed into the A tier or the S tier. I'm sorry. Um, so I think this team is super solid. They're probably gonna be right up there in contentions for playoffs for this season. Um, but I think they have to fix that. They need to look in trades that will fix their tight matchups a lot. Otherwise, they're going to probably suffer a lot in games because people are just going to be able to go, okay, these types just go in against this team. I'll just bring my Pokemon that have these types of moves. But their top end, I like it a lot. I think they can go far with just their top end. You can bring Moltres, Indeedee, Raichu, Crocodile, Slowbro, and Frostlass to almost every week, and it will do very well. So the only reason that's the and the low tiers are the only reason but put it stopping me from putting this in S tier and this type matchup chart. So overall, super solid team. I like this team a lot, and I'll give it a very solid A tier. Next up, we have the Boston Cantons. Um, this is a team I'm really against the grain with this team. Um, yeah, you got Volcarona, Whimsicott, Zapdos, Galarian, Dragouge, Registeel, Swampert, Weavile, Crustle, Heliolisk, Bronzor, and Spiritomb. The one issue I have with this team is your top three picks are all weak to Max Airstream, which is a very good max move. Yes, you got really good versatility in the Pokemon in those tiers, but I think I don't think you I think you got good answers to Flying type from the Crustle and Heliolisk. They're not exactly the best answers you could possibly have to Max Airstream users, because Max Airstream found on Pokemon like Dragapult as well, and Galarian Zapdos doesn't really like to face down like Dragapult because it can hit hit it without taking any super stab damage. Um, but Whimsicott, Volcarona, two very good support Pokemon. Zapdos Galarian is just a better Braviary. Not gonna lie, I think Braviary would actually be a better fit on this team than Galarian Zapdos. And then you grab another fighting type somewhere else. Um, but the mode I really like on this team is the Dragouge mode with the Trick Room. Bronzor's such a good Trick Room setup, but I think with Volcarona and Rage Powder being your only way to be able to redirect, you're really gonna probably suffer trying to get Bronzor up. You're probably gonna be running Sash on it more often because people will be running safety goggles to get around your Volcarona. So potentially going Volcarona something like a Fable, which is still available, is probably a good transaction. And I know you haven't made any transactions yet, but we know how strong Registeel is in VGC. It gives you a strong, reliable endgame. You can play to a Registeel body press endgame. Swampert, I don't kind of see the good point behind Swampert on this team, but it gives you rock, water, and ground coverage. Weavile, Sneasel is it's just a better Pokemon than Weavile, but even then, Weavile could Ice Shard proc Galarian Zapdos' weakness policy, which is very, very scary. Um, you got Crustle. Crustle, bulky physically, not very bulky specially. A lot of Airstream users are special as well. Heliolisk, there's no real way to really use it. There's no sun mode, there's no rain mode. Heliolisk I just feel is a little bit out of place in this team. And the tier 5s are just amazing. I like those picks highly. Bronzor is just budget Bronzong, and it's good. And Spiritomb is just Sableye, but it doesn't get Prankster. So we look at the type matchups, and only having one major weakness to Fire is super good. Being at -1, so um, so this team is really solid in terms of its type matchups. I just don't like the extreme weakness from your top three Pokemon. So if you're going to look at transactions, I probably will recommend you to probably look at probably trading something out in that top line that isn't weak to flying. But aside from that, super solid team, and I think this team can go quite far. But I'm not gonna put you anywhere, but I'm gonna put you in A tier. Um, because I think there's that extreme weakness is what's stopping me from putting his team in the S tier. You fix that flying weakness up a little bit, and your team will be absolutely unstoppable. And I think, but there's some Pokemon in this team that don't make sense. Like for example, Healing List doesn't really make sense. And Swampert, I don't exactly know what it's roughly going to be doing, but I roughly know what Swampert will do, but I don't know what it will offer to this team. But overall, a nice solid A tier ranking for this team. Next up, we're going to go over to Cali Ninjas. They are the next one. Yep, Cali Ninjas. Now, they started off super solid with their drafting. They drafted Cinderace, Clefairy, Lando Incarnate, Corviknight, Gengar, and Toxtricity. Alright, so we're thinking, alright, this team's super solid. This team's going to be right up there as one of the top teams. You got Cinderace, you got Clefairy, Lando Incarnate, Corviknight as a reliable endgame option, Gengar as anti-trick room, and Toxtricity to deal with the water type weakness you have with Lando Incarnate and Cinderace. But then this team decides to go with a very wacky low tier picks. Mr. Mime Galarian, which is not a bad mon by any means, but then they grabbed Piloswine, which which has the same typings as Lando Incarnate and Mr. Mime Galarian, and I don't really get why they picked Piloswine when they could have picked something else in that tier. I personally like Wailord, but I don't think Wailord is good without any Tailwind, and I think there are better options in tier 5 if you wanted a water type. There was things like Walrein, Wishcash, there's Basculin, there's Relicanth, so some good other water type Pokemon you could grab other than Wailord, but on the Trick Room Wailord can do well. But then we get to the picks of Bulbasaur and Eevee. Um, Eevee is alright because Eevee can give you a bit of a helping hand support. Bulbasaur, if you wanted a tier 5 last type, why did you pick Bulbasaur? Like, if you like, I get they've traded Bulbasaur out for Ivysaur, but even then, I still don't like that trade. I think Maractus is a better Pokemon in that slot because it gives you Storm Drain, which will be super important to helping out Cinderace, Lando Incarnate, and it's just an all-round good mon. It gets Chlorophyll as well, so you could run it next to Cinderace and go speedy Cactus. But I kind of feel like this team looked really solid at the very beginning. This team was looking really scary, but then they just thrown their low tier picks away, thinking I'm just gonna bring these Pokemon, my top 6, Mr. Mime, Toxtricity, Gengar, Corvi, Lando, Clefairy, and Cinderace every week, and I won't bring my lower tiers, but your lower tiers still need to be good, so they can bring it, so you can bring them. Your weaknesses are Dark, Fire, Ghost, Ground, Psychic, Rock, and Water. Um, they're not bad weaknesses, but I think you could still fix these weaknesses up massively. Like, you have nothing that can switch it on a powerful rock type attack at all. So I think you need to kind of probably fix that up a bit. You need to get a good rock type switch in. But I think this team, only thing that's really stopping me from putting this in the D tier is, so this will be a C tier team, but the only thing that's stopping me from putting this in D tier is this top line, is these top 7 Pokemon. And realistically, if I'm preparing for this team, I'm probably only going to prepare for your top 7, in honest opinion, because your low tier Pokemon aren't really good, in my honest opinion. Waylord, I've used Waylord in the past. When I first started in the VCG, I was not exactly happy with it. Piloswine is just a waste of a tier 4 pick when you've got good ground coverage and ice coverage already. Bulbasaur is just horrifically bad. It's got almost no bulk, and Eevee is horrible. My team got slain for Eviolite usage. This team has 4 Eviolite users, and like I don't know what this team can make some good transactions, and I think they've already blown one transaction on effectively a like for Bulbasaur, just getting Ivysaur. Um, Eevee, with that ability, does hit a little bit hard, so you can do that, but I just don't really see a lot of success for this team in the season if they just think that these low tiers are actually good and they've actually come to the server and said, my low tiers are good and I've drafted what I've drafted, but mate, I think you really need to look at these low tiers and pick up better Pokemon in this draft. Like, you're gonna suffer greatly if you're gonna think that your top 7 are gonna bring you success. So you really need to fix this team up. Well, not the team is good, solid at the top. At the bottom, it's a bit weak, and the floor may fall out in this team throughout the season. Next up, we got the Chicago Cub Chews. This team, I feel like, is also a little bit over the place, but it's got a little bit more of knowing what they want from this team. Urshi Rapid Strike, we know the Urshi forms are just busted as hell. Rhyperior, solid Pokemon in the Trick Room. Solid Rock is good ability. Lightning Rod. Silvally, it can basically patch up a type weakness in this team. So, for example, if you have a tough matchup against a Dragon type, you can bring Fairy type Silvally, which is good. Tornadus Farian, I think is a little bit of a waste for a tier 2 slot, but like I said, if you access the fast Tailwind, so there is that, so it's still a good-ish pick. Alcremie, they took Alcremie in round 1, so they obviously really wanted this thing. I kind of don't see the reason why they wanted to take Alcremie round 1. Like, I don't think anyone really was going to snipe it from you. You could have grabbed a better higher tier Pokemon. But hey, you obviously were bullish on Alcremie, so I'm not going to judge you. And Alcremie is quite a decent mon. Nidoqueen, the Nidos are just strong with Sheer Force Life Orb, but they're more better in non-max formats, which this is not a non-max format. But it's still a very solid Pokemon. Weezing, I don't really like the Weezing pick on this team. They have since switched out from Meowstic Female, which gets stuff like competitive, so I think they have made a slight upgrade with that trade. Electivire, I like the Electivire pick because it can be switched. It could be a switch-in option for stuff like Tornadus. But aside from that, I'd like to probably see them get another electric type to pair with Electivire to activate Motor Drive a bit more often. Oranguru, a very underrated Trick Rumor, and Tier 4 is an absolute steal for this thing. It pairs nicely with Rhyperior, because it gets Bulldoze and it gets Trick Room, and it's not weak to Ghost stuff, so the most powerful Ghost type attacks can't really hit it. Cleffa, I really hope this person knows Cleffa doesn't get Follow Me, or Ally Switch, so that's where you probably make a transaction right there just to get a better Pokemon in that tier. And Corsola, I think they could probably do something with Corsola. I think Corsola is probably a Pokemon they could probably work with, and it probably will work for them very well. So I do like this team a fair bit more than I like the other team, but I think this team still has a lot of transactions they need to make to be a top line team, and I think with 3 transactions they're going to have to nail the last 200% to get this team right up into contention. Look at the type matchups. Weaknesses to grass, ground, ice, psychic, steel, and water. All common typings in the league, but I think they can easily fix this with transactions throughout the season. But I think this team is solid, but I don't think it's B tier solid. I think I'll put you guys in the C tier. Um, I kind of think your team is solid enough to do well. It's good. I think you get good transactions done, and you'll be easily up there in B, A tier, and probably S tier, depending on your transactions being if they're super good. So that there is the Chicago Cub Juice. Next up, we have the Lake Erie Wishy-Washies. This team has gotten a few different opinions on it. I really like this team a lot. I see this team as one of the top 3 teams in my opinion. Um, Fundy Incarnate, you got to prepare for both Prankster and Defiant Fundy, um, which is not fun to deal with. Um, because they're just annoying to deal with. Like, if you think it's Prankster Fundy, then they use Defiant Fundy, all of a sudden you're in a bad position. Um, Arcanine, very solid value for tier 4. Not tier 4, tier 2. This Pokemon could easily be in tier 1 for draft leagues, but it's in tier 2, which is insanely good value for this league and for this team. Gives you a really good Intimidator as well, in the form of Arcanine. We'll get to why Justified important on this Pokemon as well a bit later on. Blastoise is a really good support mod. I know this team doesn't have any redirection on it at all. So, this Pokemon is going to be a bit more support orientated, I feel, which is still a solid Pokemon overall. Still things like Aqua Jet, Icy Wind, Fake Out, which is solid. Hydreigon, respect, man, respect. I respect you highly for drafting Hydreigon, which is my overall favourite Pokemon. So I have high respect for you. And I hope you can actually use Hydreigon really well, because I think it's a very underrated dragon type. If Dragapult wasn't in the format, this Pokemon would be absolutely ballistically insane, and I hate fairy types now. I hate fairy types because it ruined it. Vanillux, this Pokemon somehow gets beat up, and I don't know why. It's an ice cream cone. Um, um, Also, I don't think you play. Um, well, Vanillux is solid. It gets Ice Shading and Ice Shard proc for Hydreigon. You could use speed up on it for Arcanine. You could run Aurora Veil. You can run its own weakness policy set with weak armor. Vanillux I like. Weezing Galarian is solid as a pick compared, and I'm going to talk about these two Pokemon in detail together. Archeops doesn't need Weezing to succeed. It only needs Weezing to succeed once it drops below half health. Once it drops below half, you can leave another Pokemon out with Archeops, and then you can switch the other Pokemon out for Weezing once it drops below half health, and the fetus just goes. So insane value and a insane duo right here for these two, Weezing and Archeops. And I think you're going to do super well with these two Pokemon in the league. Alolan Dog Trio. We've got the Owen Wilson Dog Trio here, which is really solid. Tangling Hair is a decently good ability on this thing. It's fast at 110 base speed. I'm pretty sure, like the other Dog Trio, it does get beat up, so you could run beat up next to your Justified mons. Next one being Gallade, which is also a Justified mon, but also gets Imprisoned Trick Room, so there is that. And it gets really good priority stuff, so you can proc weakness policies on a variety of Pokemon. Trevenant. Trevenant is a Pokemon I did look at for a little while, but I ultimately decided against it because having like 2 main Ghost Sweepers was not exactly a good idea. But I think this Pokemon is not a bad option. It gets Frisk, you can find out abilities on turn 1, on the first turn. You have it, it does get Trick Room as well. So, not a solid, not a bad Pokemon choice for tier 4, and it's good value. And your tier 5 is Garbodor. Garbodor, weak armor, stench, and aftermath, all good abilities. Its G-Max effect puts Pokemon on a timer with poison. And just deals with fairy types very effectively, Garbodor. Who would have thought a pile of trash actually makes a team good, not trash? And I think it's a good fit, a really good fit for this team. We're gonna look at the type matchups, and you got weaknesses to Ghost, Ice, and Rock. That's something I've noticed amongst probably all the Erie Division coaches at the moment in their teams is they've got a little bit of a Rock weakness in their teams. So if you've got a strong Rock type Pokemon in this division, you may actually get a little bit of you may actually get some big KOs on your Rock type Pokemon in this division. But you've got answers for all of these typings, so it's not that big of an issue. And because I'm really bullish on this team, I'm going to put this team in the S tier. A lot of people may disagree with that claim, saying it's not S tier team, it's an A tier team. But I just love the versatility from these top tier Pokemon. Um, Fundy, Incarnate, you could have to prepare for Defiant, and Prank's the Fundy, which effectively is two different Pokemon. So you're almost preparing for 12 Pokemon instead of 11, which is very great for this team. Arcanine, you can run it dual ways. Archeops is still a massive threat for especially in tier 4. Only bad because of this ability. If it didn't have this ability, it'd be a top tier Pokemon. So I like this team a lot. And I think they've got a lot of options for what they want to use, and they are a massive, massive threat. And I'm going to put them in S tier just because they're a massive, giant threat, and they have a lot of versatility in their Pokemon. Do not sleep on this team at all. I see people putting this team decently low. Um, be warned, this team is going to absolutely take this league by storm if they make some really good transactions as well. Like, as this team still has room to make transactions as well, and I think this team's just going to go absolutely insane in the league. Next up, we have another team which could be considered the best in the league. Rolo's Mass Magikarps. Great logo, by the way, Rolo. Now, we're going to look at this team and say, who the hell let this man or woman, we don't know exactly their gender, I'm not going to assume anything here, but because I have, who let this person draft these Pokemon? Celesteela, Grimmsnarl, Mudsdale, Ludicolo plus Pelipper. Pelipper is trash, I will take that all the way. Slowking Galarian, Togedemaru, Druddigon, which is now a Dracloak because they made a transaction, Stoutland, Hitmonchan, and Rapidash. Celesteela, Grimmsnarl, Mudsdale are gonna, in a rain mode, are gonna win games. They're gonna win games, 100%. Some things these people are saying about this team is it's got some too many gimmicks. Where's the gimmick? That's what I asked to them is, where's the gimmick? What Celesteela, you got to prepare for either Stall Stelly, Physical Stelly, or Special Stelly. Grimmsnarl with Dark Cloak when it comes in week 2 could be offensive. Mudsdale could be Swagger Own Tempo, Beat Up Stamina. This team could actually even benefit from having something like a Cryogonal with a week. That would be absolutely insane, and I felt they actually were going to draft Cryogonal. So I was a bit sad when they drafted a Pokemon like Hitmonchan and Rapidash, because Cryogonal would absolutely be insane on this team, and just push this team over the edge. Ludicolo Pelipper, really good rain mode. Slowking Galarian, just a little bit of a Trick Room answer from the Under Trick Room. Togepi and Suddenly are going to do well. Druddigon is no longer here, it's effectively Dracloak, and Dracloak is just good support mon. They drafted Stoutland because of just personal favoritism, but even then it still gets good options. It gets Intimidate, which is really good. Hitmonchan, one of the top tier 5s, and Rapidash. It's a bit of fire typing, but I want to see a Cryogonal on this team. If you can get Cryogonal, you can run Weakness Policy Mudsdale with Triple Axle Cryogonal. And I don't know how people are going to be able to break that thing. Because I'm pretty sure it would get dual screens as well. It's like, you double ice screen, you put a Weakness Policy on it, you get Triple Axle, this Pokemon is going to go absolutely ballistically insane. Then you look at their type matchups. They have no one type they're majorly weak in. All of it is just green or yellow. And you look at what they have. They have +1s in a lot of common types like Dragon, Dark, Fairy, Ghost, Rock. water, like psychic as well. Like I think this team is super solid. Um, Rolo, if you don't win the league, you probably should be very disappointed with this team if you don't win it. Yes, that's how high I rate this team. Um, easy, the easiest S tiering I can give in this league. Um, don't feel pressured to make transactions either with this team. I think you can go all the way with just the Pokemon you've drafted. Um, make transactions to Pokemon that you think aren't pulling their weight, or not bringing. Like, if you're not bringing Rapidash at all and you don't feel like you need the fire coverage, Cryogonal is still there, and that could be one way to make your team just truly unbeatable. So I really, really like your team. So it's just insanely good and it's worthy of being top of the Erie Division. Next up, we have the Ninjazards. Good name, by the way, for your team. Um, they've gone with a bit of a bit more of a rain-based team with Rillaboom, Zapdos, and Teleon, which has been transactioned out for Duraludon. We'll get to that transaction in a bit once we go over this team. Politoed, hashtag Toad Gang, Aerodactyl, Renuigus. I don't really like saying that Pokemon. Kabutops, Klinklang, Torracat, Greedent, Dedenne. The Inteleon to Duraludon trade was a masterstroke trade, and boosted the team up my rankings a little bit. Um, Rillaboom, Zapdos, Politoed, and Kabutops, really solid rain core. You got budget Metagross and Klinklang. You can run like Aerodactyl, Bulldoze, Klinklang. Torracat, such a good Intimidator, and value for tier 4. I think this Pokemon is really undervalued. It should be tier 3 minimum, in my opinion. Greedent, used to go belly drum, cheek pouch. I have been swept by a Greedent on the ladder before because I didn't respect it. The Dene, I don't really know what the Dene does. Does it even get fake out? That's the question. We'll go to the server and just check it out because I don't really know what the hell it does. Does this thing even get fake out is the question. It gets some good supportive options, like it gets Thunder Web, U-turn, Electro Web, Eerie Impulse, but it doesn't get things like fake out. So I think the Dedenne could potentially be a Pokemon that you trade out to get a much better tier 5 pick, but this team is super solid. We'll look at the type coverage. You've only got 3 weaknesses, the typing being electric, ground, and rock, but one of those electric ones will be removed from because of the Inteleon, but you'll gain an extra ground weakness. But you're running a rain team, so it's not much of an issue because you can just really just run like a rain and just do insane damage against those ground types and rock type. Again, not an issue because you're running a rain team. But this team is solid. I think you could probably make a couple of transactions like to Dene or Renugus to better overall Pokemon. But aside from that really, really solid team, I think this Pokemon actually is, this team is actually a team that could potentially make 1-2 transactions to be absolutely realistically absolutely insane. So such, I'm gonna put them in A tier, because I don't think they have as much versatility as the Wishy-Washis or the Magikarps do. This team is really, in my opinion, a bit more like rain or bust. If rain fails, then I don't really think if they have a really big backup plan. Yeah, they got Greedent, but well, how they're gonna set up Trick Rain to enable it. They also don't have any seed swapping ones, so this team kinda lacks in the versatility department, but it rules in the power department. So this team can go far. I think you can make some very good transactions, and then you can probably make this team absolutely insanely good, and potentially a big favourite to probably win the league as well. Next up is the Ohio Oshawotts. Now, they drafted a super solid core in Togekiss Venusaur, and then Pheromosa Renucleus. Um, I like those picks. I like Togekiss. It's versatile as hell. It was a smoky for me to grab as my first pick, aside from Dragapult, because I could run supportive or offensively. Venusaur is good on this team. I think they needed a Sunsetter on this team, which they have now got due to due to a transaction, which they've traded out Comfey for Ninetales. Amazing, good trade. I like that trade a lot. It puts the team up really highly. And as such, the ranking will be reflected by that transaction. The only team where I think the transaction will affect the overall grading, because I had this team as being a C tier team without the Ninetales. This team goes right up to A tier with the Ninetales, and I want to put it in A tier. The Pheromosa and Ridiculous Core, super solid. You can speed swap it if you really want to, and all of a sudden Ridiculous is just going blisteringly fast. Talonflame, good for priority tailwind, I like it. Drapion, this thing says it's going to crit things all day, every day, and a good fairy type check. Ryulu, I wonder if they're going to use Copycat Trick Room in one of their sets. Like, it's there, the tools are there to do it, and they probably will do it. Seeking, I kind of don't get the Seeking pick. I don't really think you have a major electric weakness on this team, so Seeking could probably get traded out to a better water type if you wanted a water type, and I think there is some good tier 4 water types still available. I don't think Seeking was in fact the play. Lopunny is a good value for tier 5 because you get access to Fake Out, and it has good coverage as well because it's like fighting coverage as well. It gets decent coverage. Cute Charm is an interesting ability, probably an ability to probably run, probably Limber as well to avoid paralysis. But Lopunny, I don't mind to pick tier 5, usual Fake Out, that's probably the only reason why you're probably going to use it. And Stunfisk, bit of an iffy pick, Stunfisk, but I think this Pokemon can do really well on the Trick Room if you play it right. And there's also a Pokemon reason why I'm saying don't grab, probably trade out Seeking, is because Stunfisk can deal with those electric type Pokemon really handedly, and I don't really see what Seeking will offer you on your team. So I think trading Seeking out to a better water type and keeping Stunfisk is potentially the option. Is actually the play for you. We go to the type coverage. You got major weaknesses to flying, ice, and psychic. You got no real resistance to normal type attacks, but it's not really a major issue because there's not really any more very powerful normal type Pokemon in the tier, like things like Snorlax, Porygon Z, never got drafted, so it's not exactly a death sentence. But I think this team is solid in terms of its coverage, and Ninetales just improves this team a lot. Even though you will get another weakness in water and rock, I think you actually will do super well with the Ninetales, and I think this team will rate really highly. And I think just a couple of good transactions away from being super good. So I'll rank this team as a tier team. Super solid. I like this team a lot, and I think you can actually do super well with this team. I'm actually going to make an update to the team. I think the Chicago Cup Chews can up to a B tier, judging by the way I've tiered things. I don't think they're as bad as the Cali Ninjas in terms of the team composition, and I think they're actually in a better position than the Ninjas are at the moment. Next up is my week 1 opponent, the Seattle Superlax. So I'll talk about the team a bit, but I won't talk about it in depth because I don't really want them to know what I'm doing or where I'm probably going to try and beat their team. But they've gone with a standardish Colossal beat up team, so like, it's just a staple in every single draft league. Colossal plus beat up Barizion with Sneasel, like, it's just bread and butter as many teams draft teams get in this in drafts. But Colossal, Primarina, Rotom Wash, Racing a Dusknoir, Sneasel, Vikavolt, Golduck, Purloin, Doublade, and Fletchling. Um, we all know how powerful Colossal is in VGC. Its Gym Max effect is just busted. It also goes blisteringly fast. Primarina is a good partner for it as well with Aquajet. And it's also an offensive threat itself. Like, so you have to prepare for offensive Primarina, not just Colossal as well. Rotom Wash, I kind of don't see on this team as being a good option because you've already got the water type in Primarina. And yes, if you want electric type, I'm pretty sure there's some good tier 2 electric types still available. So there is definitely a trade option there. Barizion on Colossal teams, on Colossal, especially in draft teams, is really solid. And it gets a Sneasel partner, so Sneasel is another good Pokemon on this team. It allows you to beat up with Barizion. It can run copy. You can do. I don't think you can run a copycat on it, but there is Purloin. You can run a copycat Trick Room on with Dusknoir. Barizion plus Sneasel really powerful. Sneasel plus Colossal very powerful. Vikavolt is a good Trick Room option. Golduck, I know I've traded this out for, I believe. Have a look. They have traded it for Luxray, which in my opinion is a massive upgrade. In my opinion, because it basically allowed them to drop Rotom Wash for something entirely different. I get why they picked Golduck because I did watch their draft analysis. It was the weather denial that ultimately pushed them over the edge for it. I also thought it would be an alternate Aquajet user for Colossal. And I thought potentially it was a bit of a trying to get a bit of a rain mode going with Golduck and Purloin. So I didn't really mind the Golduck pick on this team. I was more concerned that they should have gotten rid of Rotom Wash. But I've talked to the guy about the team and I said, Rotom Wash isn't a bad Pokemon at all. Like, you don't have to make the trade like this instant. Like, you can make the trade on the last week before transactions close for the season. So, get a better Pokemon. Like, I think Rotom Wash is still a good Pokemon, but it just doesn't fit the composition. But I think if they keep going Rotom Wash, they will make things like lives difficult. Like, I'm having difficulty preparing for both Primarina and Rotom Wash personally. But I ultimately know going into my team, Primarina is probably the better Pokemon for him to choose. Going into week 1. But enough of that. Doublade, very good option in the Trick Room. And also a smoky chance to probably run like LS Witch, very Trick Room with Dusknoir. Then you go Status Sneak into Dusknoir, run Weakness Policy Dusknoir. And people will be surprised by it because they might think Doublade will be the one maxing. And I am really, really sorry if I did steal Fletchinder from you. But because if that was the reason why you drafted Fletchling, because you wanted priority Tailwind, and I accidentally sniped Fletchinder from you, I am truly sorry about that. It's just Fletchinder I really wanted for my team comp, but Fletchling kind of does the same thing. All you need for is set up Tailwind and it could die. Looking into your type matchups, you've got a bit of a weakness to Electric, a bit of weakness to Fairy, and a major weakness to Rock. But you've got Pokemon to deal with those pretty handedly. Like Colossal could deal with Fairy types. It's very effectively. Electric types are handled pretty well by this team. Like I don't think you have a Ground type on this team. Maybe I thought you could grab it. You probably go Ground type on this team, and then your team would be really solid. Overall, very solid team. I'm gonna put you in the A tier, not B tier, A tier. And that's just speaking to the volumes of the Erie Division. Like, there are 6 teams in the A tier, and that's just so solid. That's what I really wanted from this draft league experience, playing against people who are good, have good teams, and having 6 of them in A is just insanely good in my opinion. Um, and of course, my last team is the last team I'm going to probably talk about, but I'm not going to go really in depth, and I won't put my team on the team list because it may be seem to be a little bit biased. But we will roughly overall talk about my team a little bit because I have released a video talking about why I've drafted specific mons. But you got like the Terrapult, Gyarados, Bishop, Gardevoir, Rotom, Tangler, Magmortar, Rhydon, which is now Sandaconda, Vachinda, and Roaring. And you can actually see I wasn't actually lying about drafting Rhydon. I did in fact draft it, and I've made a transaction for Sandaconda. Um, But looking at my type matchups, we have a bit of a Ghost Wish weakness, a bit of an Ice weakness, and a bit of a Rockish weakness. And that's and it's just really solid type coverage overall. So I kind of like the way the team performed, and I like the way it stacks up against most of the other teams in the league as well. If I was to put my team in a tier list, looking at it from the most unbiased perspective possible, I would probably put it up there as one of the top teams in S. But cases could be made for why it could be an A tier team. But I think the team is solid enough to be put in S tier. But I'm not going to put it there on the tier list because it'd be not really the right thing to do. So this is the final tier list. I'm going to put myself in D tier because I have a really bad team. 0 out of 10, bad team. Even though I just said my team's really good. So I'll just rename these to my team so people don't think the West Coast Braveries are actually a bad team. But I really like these team composition, and I think this league's gonna be really, really good. I think there are really probably 8 teams, well, probably 9 teams that could theoretically win this league, and that's really solid because we don't really know who's probably gonna win it. And the teams in B and C could easily make good transactions and come from nowhere to win this league as well. So this league I feel like is really open for anyone to take advantage for it. All you've got to do, make the correct transactions if I've suggested them, make some good plays, prepare really well, and if it's your day, you could probably win this thing. Even if you are the Cali Ninjas and you're the only team I see as terrible in the C tier. But I think my personal favourite team is Rollo's team, and I think my early predictions for who's going to win the league, I would have to say, aside from myself, because I think, but of course you're probably going to say yourself's going to win myself's going to probably win the league, but I'd say who is going to win the league. I think it's going to be someone who has a strong team and use their transactions super well, and I think ultimately, judging from this tier list, the team that has the potential to win the league is easily the Lake Erie Wishy-Washies. They can easily pull some very good shenanigans and win the league, followed clearly by Rolo. Like, that team is just ballistically insane. But there are a couple of A tier teams I like as well. Like, I think the very first team, the Pangolies, can win it. I think the Born in Chaos can definitely win it. The Super Laxes, some good trades, can win it. I think anyone in S and A can win it, but of course, B and C, you guys can make some good transactions and you guys can be in that conversation. I think everyone in this league can win this. So, anyways, that is my rankings and my analysis for every team. Put in a couple of transaction advices for the teams as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and my takes on the teams. I know some people may not agree with some of the tiering issues or tiering placements. Like some people might say the Born Chaos are S tier, the Cantons are an S tier, but I see them as being A tier teams. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video, which I think will be the mid-season review. I may do weekly reviews, I may not. But feel free to follow on Twitter, and I will probably tell you guys if I am doing those videos there. Anyway, I will see you guys all later.